Hi there, my name's Conrad Grobien and I'm a second-year Modern History and Economics student at the University of Manchester. This semester, I have embarked on a module called Global Citizenship and Sustainability, which challenges the way we see the world and our role in it. This module has truly changed the way I think, and I hope to portray the journey I've been on in this presentation. This presentation will be on cultural appropriation of clothing. I knew I wanted to explore this topic, and it all started in summer when I was walking down the street on a summer's evening with my girlfriend, who is Chinese. As we were walking, we went past a pub. In this pub, a young, white, quite clearly drunk lady was wearing a cheongsam, a traditional Cantonese dress. In seeing this, my girlfriend was a bit annoyed, rolling her eyes and saying, "Typical." At the time, I didn't really understand why she would feel this way. I mean, clothes are clothes, and they are there to be worn. Possibly, my viewpoint stems from my background. Born in England, but being quarter German, quarter Iranian, and half Welsh, I've never felt any strong ties to any nation, and I'm probably one of the least nationalistic people you could meet. In this sense, I've never felt any tie to any culture, and any of the things that come with this culture. So for me, this is where my journey started. I hope you enjoy my presentation. So, what is cultural appropriation? Here's a news article which gives a good example of the subject.
Kendall and Kylie Jenner are being put on blast for cultural appropriation once again. This time for appropriating the Chola culture. And just like last time, it has to do with their Kendall plus Kylie clothing line. Shoppers and internet trolls are not happy about one of Kendall and Kylie's newest tops in particular. The item under fire is a long-sleeve black and white plaid shirt and is being accused of culture appropriating the Chola culture. Promotional images of the shirt show the model wearing the baggy button-down opening from the neck down, accessorized with large hoop earrings and slick back hair. In addition, the model is wearing a lace bra underneath and baggy black pants. And you're not going to believe this, but it's listed at $145. And to be honest, we're pretty sure you could get the same one at Target for about $24.99. But the price is not what the sisters are being dragged for. The accusation started with Twitter user Lipstick Kitty, who wrote, "You got me so effed up making money off our culture, #rats." Another fan caught wind of the photos and wrote, "Kylie Jenner's appropriation of black culture, now Latin culture, the family needs to be canceled." Even famed makeup and tattoo artist Kat Von D inserted herself in the conversation, tweeting, "Damn posers." It seems not to be the plaid shirt itself, but the way it's styled with one button buttoned on top, hoop earrings, and baggy pants that has the internet in an uproar. The Lipstick Kitty Twitter user explained to Refinery29, "It's definitely irritating to see these girls making money off a culture they know absolutely nothing about. When we Latinas and Chicanas dress in flannels and big pants, we get profiled and frowned upon, but when they do it, it's fashion." The photo on their Kendall and Kylie Instagram page has since been taken down, and it's still listed for sale on their website. If you recall, this isn't the first time the ladies have been accused of cultural appropriation for their clothing line. Earlier this summer, the Jenners were dragged for their vintage tees and featured rock bands and rap artists without their consent. So, do you guys think these latest accusations are legit, or can the Jenners sell a plaid shirt if they want to? After telling us your thoughts, be sure to click right here to see Kylie admit she wouldn't be friends with Kendall if she wasn't related to her by blood. Yikes. I'm your host, Jackie Adinisi. I'll see you guys next time.
The Oxford Dictionary states that cultural appropriation is the unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of the customs, practices, ideas, etc. of one people or society by members of another and typically more dominant people or society. The Cambridge Dictionary definition states that cultural appropriation is the act of taking or using things from a culture that is not your own, especially without showing that you understand or respect this culture. A few typical examples of accused appropriated clothing are the dashiki, the Native American headdress, durag, and kimono. The current rise in this topic of debate is definitely a factor of increased globalization. As Darwin Williams said, who are leading scholars in the subject of global citizenship, increased globalization means increased intercultural relations. Indeed, the more connected our world is, the more our cultures intertwine, and this has led to the rise of this debate. In consideration of these definitions, and the topic of this presentation being specifically about clothing, I came up with my own definition of cultural appropriation and clothing. This is wearing an item of clothing from a culture that is not your own, typically in an inappropriate and disrespectful manner. But hold on, what constitutes inappropriate and disrespectful? This is quite clearly a grey area. And do people from the same culture hold the same opinions? Do some care? Do some not? Well, I made a survey to find out the answer, and here are the results. In total, 59 people answered my survey from a diverse range of ethnicities. Now, here are the results. 17% of respondents voted yes to the question, do you think people should be able to dress in clothing from cultures they are not a part of? With 63.16% saying to an extent, and 2.31% saying no. Reasons varied, with the yes voters saying freedom to wear what you want as their reasoning. A to an extent voter stated the interlinked nature of fashion and culture, saying there is a very fine line, and it becomes appropriation when the person shows a lack of respect for others' beliefs and a lack of understanding of the garment. A no voter simply stated that most people don't understand what they're wearing. The next question asked, do you think it's important to understand the cultural significance behind a cultural garment if you are wearing it? With 76.79% saying yes, 12.50% saying no, and 10.71% stating other, typically stating that you should know a bit, but not everything. Interestingly, just under half of respondents said that it either always annoys them or only sometimes annoys them when they see someone from another culture wearing a garment from their culture, with 5.36% saying that it annoys them every time. Now, the million-dollar question. What do you think constitutes cultural appropriation with regards to clothing? I got a huge variety of responses to this question. One being, cultural appropriation is largely non-existent. I think that the ability to wear clothes from different cultures symbolizes an individual's freedom to wear what they want. If this offends people, they have no right to persecute that individual. Another said, yes, it exists. Some people wear traditional clothing for fun or to look cool. It demeans the culture behind it and continues to undermine already underrepresented cultures. One simply stated, I do not think it exists. And another said, I do think it exists. People wearing items from other cultures that they are not a part of in a way that is not respecting the cultural significance of the item is cultural appropriation. In addition to this, wearing cultural significant clothing in a high fashion way and being praised for it when others within that culture face discrimination for wearing the same thing. For example, Kendall Jenner and Gigi Hadid posting a selfie wearing hijabs. As we can see, there is a range of opinions out there. When we dig deeper into these results, we can see a trend emerge. For question 4, a white Caucasian is twice as likely to respond no than an ethnic minority to the question of if they think it is important to understand the cultural significance behind the cultural garment if you are wearing it. To the question of does it annoy you when you see someone of another ethnicity wearing a garment from your culture, an ethnic minority is over 3 times more likely to respond sometimes or yes every time than a white Caucasian. Here, we have identified a causal link. Evidently, a person of ethnic minority is more likely to see it as important to understand the culture behind the garment, and is far more likely to feel aggrieved when a person from another culture wears their clothes. In light of this, I went searching the internet to find some perspectives. Here, I found an article called Check Your Privilege, Clothes White People Shouldn't Wear, by Gian De Leon and Matthew Henson via complex.com. De Leon is Filipino and Henson is African American. In this article, they argue that white people should not wear a keffiyeh, Native American inspired gear, kamikaze hashimakis, kimono, durag, conocal hats, dashiki, and burqas, giving the cultural implications of doing so. To try and understand their opinion, we must look into their positioning. But hold up, What does positioning mean? We each have a culturally complex and unique identity as a result of us being part of a particular society at a particular time. In other words, the views we tend to hold are a result of the culture and society we were brought up in and belong to. In this sense, we can further analyze initial perspectives to fully understand their positioning in that text. So going back to our initial article, we see that authors taking the view that white people shouldn't wear a variety of culturally significant clothing. His purpose, also known as the mesoline, is informative. They want white people to understand why they shouldn't. Going one step further, to the microline, the article has quite an aggressive, aggrieved tone. This could suggest that previous experiences, possibly racial or with a white person in cultured clothing, has formed this view. Although we cannot say for sure why he has taken this positioning, as there is not much information on the upbringing and experiences of the authors. Further investigating into their positioning shows us possible reasons for their stance, and this is important when trying to understand views that are not our own. In contrast, an article by Mary Wakefield, a 63-year-old American nurse and healthcare administrator who served in the Obama administration, wrote an article named The Mad Bad Crusade Against Cultural Appropriation. In this article, she is not directly referring to clothing, but discusses a white artist depicting a famous photograph of a dead black boy. This artist faced a large amount of criticism for this, with critics mainly saying that as she's white and a member of the oppressor class, she shouldn't be allowed to depict black suffering. Mary argues against these critics, saying, quote, "These snowflakes, posing as victims, demanding safe spaces, these righteous muppets are stupid in thinking the powerful can't champion the underdogs," unquote. Writing for The Spectator, Wakefield has taken the perspective that people of the oppressor class, i.e., white Caucasians, should be able to champion the rights of the not powerful, and it's stupid and counterproductive to think otherwise. This view translates to clothing, essentially arguing that white people can positively engage in minority cultures by wearing their clothes, and to stop people from doing so is stupid. Although not directly about clothing, I chose Wakefield's perspective as I felt it represents a deeper generational dispute on the topic of cultural appropriation. If we look at the microline, by which we mean further investigating the smaller details of the article, her use of the words snowflakes, safe spaces, and entitled millennials is typical of the baby boomer and millennial generational debate. Therefore, a possible reasoning for her stance on cultural appropriation could be rooted in her generational belief of millennials as whiny and entitled. Now, emphasis must be made on the fact that to stereotype people of a certain age to beliefs is fundamentally wrong and completely against what global citizenship is about. However, as Wakefield uses words directly connected to this generational debate like entitled millennials, it is fair to say that this could be a possible reason for her positioning on the topic. In light of these two conflicting perspectives and the array of answers from my survey, I looked into the themes that I have studied in my Global Citizenship module to give me a clearer idea of this topic. In particular, I looked at the core values of global citizenship. In this, I came across the scholar Chattel, who argues that the core concepts of global citizenship are responsibility for the whole world and not just our inner circle, participation, more than just our local town fair, and awareness of oneself and not just our inner circle. This translates to my topic, as in order to understand different perspectives on cultural appropriation of clothing, it is essential to think with a worldwide perspective. Further investigation led me to a term which I believe best sums up the answer to the problem of cultural appropriation of clothing, and that is ethnocentrism. This term refers to us seeing the world through the lenses provided by our culture. Similar to positioning, our views are shaped by our environment and the culture we live in. Being ethnocentric leads to stereotypes, like this Halloween costume. This is unhealthy, as we can never progress if we don't understand that ours and everyone's views are shaped by their past and that these experiences can be extremely different. Our perspective is just one way of viewing reality. In this sense, we need to detach ourselves from our ethnocentrism and really take the time to understand and engage with conflicting perspectives. This is done by understanding why someone has taken a conflicting view. By taking the time to understand someone's different perspective, then it is likely that you will understand why they have taken that view. In a topic like cultural appropriation of clothing, no one is wrong and no one is right, but we must understand why everyone feels the way they do if we are to progress on an issue like this. So, inspired by an article by Jenny Evans, I have compiled 5 key points that summarizes my newfound perspective on the issue of cultural appropriation of clothing. Number 1. Respect. I believe the fundamental cause of most people's discontent at people wearing clothes from another culture is because they aren't respecting it. Looking back to the situation with my girlfriend that sparked my interest in the topic, she wasn't annoyed necessarily because she was wearing a cheongsar, but more because she was drunk and disorderly whilst wearing something that had meaning and importance to her. In this sense, that woman wasn't respecting the garment that, for my girlfriend, has a meaning, and to get drunk in it is almost a way of metaphorically spitting on it. So if you wear a garment from another culture, wear it with respect for the importance that it holds to people of that culture. Number 2. It is up to the individual to assess whether them wearing a garment is right, and they can do that by understanding its history. I have done this, and I believe out of all the garments I've researched, 2 are just not okay. Firstly, donning a blackface, by which we mean non-black people painting themselves to look like they have black skin, is purely offensive. With all the inequality and injustices black people have faced over the span of many, many years, to paint yourself as black purely for entertainment value is just insulting, and there is no need. Although it is not essentially a garment, it is a costume which people have worn over the years, and I believe this is wrong. Secondly, I personally don't think a war bonnet should be worn, despite the fact it's so prevalent. This is because, to the Native Americans, the war bonnet has spiritual and ceremonial significance, with only certain members of the tribe having earned the right to wear feathers through honor-worthy achievements and acts of bravery. Therefore, this is like someone wearing a Medal of Honor, the US Medal for Bravery, or like the Victoria Cross of the UK. If a foreigner walked down the streets of the UK wearing a Victoria Cross, I'm sure there would be a witch hunt for him, probably started by the Daily Mail. Therefore, why do we think it's okay to go to festivals and parties wearing the Native American war bonnet, especially when we consider the near genocide of their whole race by white Americans? Now, this is just my perspective, and there may be more or less that you think is acceptable, but they have stuck out in my mind for the reasons I just stated. Third, it is important to remember that culture is fluid, and that the exchange of ideas, styles, and traditions is a special joy of the increased globalized world we live in. Japanese designers have taken the original blue jeans of American immigrant Levi Strauss and made it into something of their own. Their stretchy, synthetic-based fabrics would be unrecognizable to Strauss. Therefore, these Japanese designers have made a nuanced, culturally rich tradition of its own. This is something we, as global citizens, should be proud of and treasure. The idea that culture can be adapted and ideas exchanged cross-culturally is something very special and something we should do our best to protect. Fourth, it's important to engage with other cultures on more than an aesthetic level. Famous rapper Nicki Minaj once said, "Come on, you can't want the good without the bad. If you want to enjoy our culture and lifestyle, bond with us, dance with us, have fun with us, twerk with us, rap with us, then you should also want to know what affects us, what is bothering us, what we feel is unfair to us." And this is true. It is disrespectful to pick and choose bits of cultures you like. If you're going to wear a garment from a culture, then you should also take the responsibility to learn more about that culture, and not just cherry pick the clothes you like and not listen to what they have to say. The final point is that appropriation is no substitute for diversity. In Paris Fashion Week 2015, Valentino designers Maria Chivri and Pier Paolo Picciolo sent out a collection that was heavily influenced by Africa. Picciolo said, that the message is tolerance. However, the problem was that there was no woman of color on that runway. So if the point is tolerance, then the faces of the catwalk should reflect it. Consequently, it is important to remember the differences between appropriation and diversity and not to confuse the two. To conclude, it is fair to say that this really has been a journey for me. From not knowing why my girlfriend would be annoyed to recording this presentation now, a lot has changed in my mindset and how I view issues and understand conflicting perspectives. By understanding that I am a member of this world, it has given me a new ethic of caring as a global citizen, and not just a UK citizen. It has made me think and understand outside of my ethnocentrism, and I hope my new understanding of global citizenship has come across in this presentation. Now, there is no right answer to cultural appropriation of clothing, but the only wrong thing you can do is to have your opinion and not take the time to understand why someone holds a conflicting view. And that is a message that resonates far beyond cultural appropriation and in all walks of life. As global citizens, it is our duty to understand why people think differently to us. Progress can only be made if we understand what is stopping it, and it is our duty to the world to think like this. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation.